Good morning, everyone.
Look at that. We are back and better than ever, as they say, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are you?
It's going. Took an unexpected week off last week. There's just a lot of shit going around. Sometimes you just gotta
100%.
take a break, man. I don't know what else there's to say about it. It's just
Yeah. You mean you're telling me that that as a real estate investor, you don't have this lavish lifestyle where you can just, you jump in your Lamborghini and head to Miami and and go parasailing all
so
week. You mean you can't? I'm
so
confused. I
yeah.
thought
Well,
that
the
was
answer to that question is yes. I could do that minus the Lamborghini because I would never waste money on a nonsense like that in the first place. But yes, I mean I could do that, but sometimes, man, you just gotta you just gotta take a step back sometimes and just say, what in the hell is happening? You know what I mean?
yeah.
With
I
not
actually
only out there in the world that we're getting closer and closer to maybe believing that we are actually plugged into the matrix, but beyond that, right? This Skynet, all hail Skynet. So we are like beyond that stuff too. I mean, sometimes shit, reality is stranger than fiction, and that's all I'll say.
yeah. I actually posted about this on my personal Facebook page this morning. Uh, by the way, I guess that's an open invite for anybody who wants to visit me on my personal Facebook page. But there's this guy. You may have seen him. His name's Chris Munchin. He's a comedian, and he does these characters. And the character, I believe the character that he did in this video that I posted was probably like a little portrayal of like the Grant Cardone type. Like it's just hilarious. You got to go out and watch it. It's just hilarious. Let's go. That type of stuff. I love it. I love it so
Let's
great.
go.
I don't know how many people I know that either act like that or that honestly that learn from those people. I don't know. I just think it's a little bit of a for me it's a little bit embarrassing. It's just just can't do it. But anyway, all right, man. Are you ready to get this going?
I am. So, welcome back, everybody, to the Creative Real Estate Investing Mastery podcast, by the way. And so we are, I don't even know when, I've lost track. We're in the 50s on the episodes, right? I mean, we crossed the big threshold, like the 50, like we're in syndication now, brother. Like, isn't that, I don't know what the threshold
Well,
is, 48
today,
episodes syndicated or.
today is actually number 52, which I think is an even bigger milestone because fit, although we did skip some weeks, there were weeks there that but 52 means that we've actually been on for 52 an entire year. So
Nice. That's nice. So it's good. So what do we have? What are we going to be back and better than ever? What's our topic today, Mr. Kaufman?
well, we often sit around here and we rack our brains on what we're going to talk about because there's a lot going on in this business, but there still really is. It's either one of two things. It's either we run out of things to talk about, or we have so many things to talk about we can't pick which one.
Right. And sometimes it's hard to tie it into like
Yes.
strictly real estate business because we do have a lot of shit to say, but we're trying to make this about real estate.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. So today I thought we'd just do a quick little case study. If you're not familiar with us, if you haven't watched what we do and what we're all about, we do creative financing, of course, but me in particular, my favorite model is, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but my favorite model is to buy on creative terms and then turn around and sell on creative terms. So that could be picking up something subject to, turning around and selling it on a contract for deed or agreement for deed, or doing a wrapping a whole mortgage and selling it off to a buyer on agreement for deed, all kinds of different, kind of creative acquisition and dispo strategies. And so today is one of those strategies. We're going to talk about a property. I think we actually talked about this property. We've probably touched on it a couple times, but it's resurfaced because my buyer is now refinancing us out. I was notified last week that the buyer wants to go ahead and refinance us out of this deal, which kind of saddens me because it means that I love the long-term cash flow more so than I like the big paychecks. Nevertheless, we have cash flowed this property for a little over a year now, and then we are going to be getting paid. So remember, we get paid, generally speaking, we get paid 3 times, sometimes 4 times, but we get paid 3 times. We get our cash up front in the form of a down payment. We get our cash flow, and then we get our when we're cashed out at the end, we get that the remainder of the balance of the loan. And so I don't generally like to put in some of my notes and or agreements for deed. I don't like to put balloons in. So this I'm talking about for my buyers. So I like long-term cash flow. And that also means that I don't put in prepayment penalties. Generally speaking, it's going to have to be a really extenuating circumstance to actually put a prepayment penalty in the terms when I'm selling to a buyer. And I'll only do it if the deal is, maybe so tight that if they refinanced on day one, that I would either that we would either lose money or we would have wasted all of that time putting this deal together for next to nothing. So
before you get started, I just want to make sure. So this is you see me smiling too. So this is like we're a couple of real guys doing real deals, and this is a real deal that you have done, cash flowed for just over a year now, you said, and now you're going to get cashed out of it.
That's right. Yep.
Going to make good and cash out of it.
Yeah. We did well. This thing was cash flowing $600 a month, and we're doing pretty well on it. And like I said, it's that's the only kind of hard feeling that I have is I wish it would have cash flowed much, much longer. But I'm not mad. I've said this a million times, but you never want to set your buyers up for failure. You just don't want to do it. Because that's just going to be more headache for you down the road. It just doesn't make sense to have a buyer, and unfortunately, I think there's a lot of investors right now that are doing a lot of these, how do I want to say it?
Shady shit. You could
shady stuff. And they're just taking any old buyer.
It's them and screws everybody else under.
Yeah. And ultimately though, that ultimately has the extremely high potential of coming back and biting them in the rear end,
Yes.
So,
well, all of us really.
Yeah.
Right. Ultimately.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So this buyer that I got in here at this property, she's been a very, very good buyer. I will tell you, I'll give you some of the background of this particular buyer. Now, this is a married woman. She, for whatever reason, I don't know and I don't care, but for whatever reason, she did not want to. She wants to buy this house. She wanted to buy this house by herself in her own name. She did not want to include her husband's name in it. I didn't ask questions, but it did affect the terms in which the terms of the agreement that we came to. And by the way, I sold this on agreement for deed.
And can I just interject there too?
Yeah.
That's becoming more and more common, where even married couples are just only one of them or the other one's in it. And I'm not so sure if they're getting good legal advice because Missouri's a common law, a common property state, community property state. So I don't know what advantage that has.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that it does kind of clean up. It does kind of make for, I just thought this just came to my mind. It kind of makes for a clean split, but it
Yes,
makes
yeah,
makes
understood.
title makes
Right.
title really clean.
It's just anticipation of the bad is really what it is, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, it's kind of wild.
Yep.
Where was I going? Oh, so anyway, she wanted to buy this individually, not married, and so um, obviously I can only look at her credit history. And by the way, I don't. Whenever I look at credit history, what I mean by that is I'm not necessarily concerned with the credit score. I think the credit score is a scam. I do. I think, but if you look at the
But
if you,
but a 520 credit score though is get just grab your attention.
it does. But I'm more interested in the time on the job. I'm more interested in are there any personal liens or judgments? Is anything in default right now? Are
Yep.
there any
Monthly.
late payments? What's the history of late payments? That's what I'm interested in. I will tell you that this individual, she had a great credit. She had like an 800 credit score, something like that. Her problem came in with DTI, debt to income. She was on the high end of DTI, which was right around 50%, little over 50%, as a matter of fact. And that makes me nervous, especially if we only have one individual that is ultimately going to be responsible for making this payment. So here's the agreement that we reached. Um, Once I found all this information out, she's not someone who makes late payments. She doesn't have any judgments or anything like that. She's totally just on the surface a great buyer. The agreement that we reached was that if she could show me, excuse me, I would sell this property to her on terms via agreement for deed. However, which, by the way, only gives the buyer equitable title. They are not legally on title. But they do have an equitable interest in that property, especially if they're putting, like she put $15K down on this thing. So I agreed that I would still sell it to her on agreement for deed. And if she made all of her payments on time, not one late payment for the following 12-month period, which she has, that I would give her legal title. I would wrap the underlying subject to mortgage, do an all-inclusive mortgage, and sell it to her, and give her legal title to this property.
So you'd convert. So the logistics of that is that you would actually null and void the agreement for deed and convert it to a straight wrap, the non-inclusive deed of trust.
That is correct. That is correct.
And thereby transferring the title to her.
Yeah, because it was a big deal to her to be on legal title, and with that kind of DTI, I just could not. I could not do that. I would have had to let her walk. So she agreed to it, and she has been. By the way, I want to backtrack for just a second. Those of you watching might ask, why would someone with an 800 credit score need to buy a property seller financed?
Yes, I should have asked you that question, but I already know that. Yeah,
but see, this is the type of stuff when people ask, well, why would somebody buy something seller financed if they can go out,
yep.
and or pay more potentially in interest and in price? This is a perfect example of that. We have an individual who is maybe not a perfect example of this, but we have an individual who has a fantastic credit score, great record, history of on-time payments, no liens or judgments. Her problem was that they've got this split between the husband and wife, where she wants to be on, she wants the property on her own, but she just didn't make enough money to be able to, meet that threshold of debt to income ratio.
Yep. So she couldn't qualify with a traditional lender because
Correct.
of the DTI ratio. She could not
That's
qualify,
correct.
even
That's
with an
right.
800 credit score.
Right. So these people exist, folks. I'm telling you, they're out there. They're great buyers. She has been. There's only one other individual I can think of that was a tenant that just like clockwork paid on time. no problems. We've never had a problem with her. So anyway, she is now talking to a lender, and she's going to quote refinance this, which, you know, what? Okay, I'm going to jump into the lender side of things.
Real quick though, before we go into the details of your disposition, you didn't bother to talk about how you acquired this. How did you acquire this before you ever found her? Maybe because that's a good too. Going back to the creative stuff, like we do creative stuff.
Yeah, I picked this up subject to. So this was I believe this was from a wholesaler. I picked this up subject to. I'm actually going to go through the numbers specifically. I'll bring up
Sorry.
I'll show you those numbers, but I picked it up subject to. We put some cash into it to bring it up to current occupancy codes. I mean, we've got this thing here in St. Louis, and those of you who live outside of St. Louis may not have this, but we have these occupancy codes, and they are
stupid bullshit.
Well, you could look at it that way.
90% of it stupid.
90% of it is just total baloney. Baloney.
10% of it actually protects the people.
Yeah. So we had to put in some capital into to get it repaired and get it up to standards. And yeah, so we're in for this thing. You know, I can go over the numbers here.
Can I just say for a second though that I was in this property with you too. It's like the rehab that you did, we'll say the updates that you did are way above what the minimum code standard was. By the way, they
well,
just let's make sure.
Yeah, it was a little bit
more than needed to be done. But
you get in there and you just get, sometimes you get wild-eyed and dreamy, and you're just like, oh man, this thing could be,
Yeah, it was a solid job. Yeah.
It was nice. It was a nice house. So okay, let's talk about, before I get into bring these notes up. Lenders. So a lot of times folks get, if you're following this model, and if you are, or if you're thinking about following this model, you're going to potentially have some issues when you have a situation like this where your buyer wants to refinance the property. Particularly, you will not have this problem if you have wrapped the mortgage and you have given or provided legal title to your buyer up front. That then becomes a true refinance.
Yep.
And in a true refinance, you have to have title seasoning. You have to have a certain amount of time between when the title changed hands and when that buyer can refinance that. That is 99%. That's a Fannie guideline that all the conventional lenders are going to follow. So just keep that in mind. If per se, let's say that, and this was our original plan, by the way, was I was going to give her legal title. She was then going to go out and refinance that.
Like a year, like 6 to 12 months.
Correct.
Yeah. Then it's the title seasoning too.
Right.
So where the agreement, this is a good point you brought up, where the agreement for deed does not allow that.
It does not.
So some lenders will still recognize that as a refinance, but many will not.
Correct. I could get so into the weeds on this because you just
a lot of detail to get wrapped up. Yeah.
So I'm going to keep it simple. So just keep that in mind. And with a refinance, you have that title seasoning. By the way, the title seasoning is 90 days currently. So you've got the refinance. In this situation, she wants to, because this is an 8% interest rate is what we're charging her. We just had a decrease in interest rates. The Fed just lowered interest rates by a quarter basis point yesterday. And so now she's really on the ball. Like, so
lock that rate in, baby. Lock that rate in.
So what we ended up doing, now I will tell you that I work with some lenders here locally, and this is not something that anybody watching this should really count on, because these these lenders are kind of few and far between. But I have lenders here that will refinance. They do recognize equitable title, and they will refinance our buyers straight out of a contract for deed. And those types of lenders are generally the lenders that hold their own notes.
Yeah.
You're not, and that don't really have to.
Yeah.
Right. They don't have to follow Fannie guidelines and all that, because they're not selling those notes to secondary markets or anything like that. So, so don't really count on that. I would say that's, it's really nice to have those folks, but it's not very common. Okay. So now down to what we actually did. So in this situation, my buyer did not want to use my lenders for whatever reason. My lenders are great lenders. Their interest rates are very, very, they're very good. They're in line with kind of your normal interest rates, but she had someone that she wanted to use. And so what I decided to do was say, let's hold off on this transfer of title to you, and let me speak with your lender, and let's figure out how we can ultimately help you get this thing refinanced. And I'm so glad that we did that, because in fact, that my buyer would have had to wait a few more months to get this refinanced because of the title seasoning issue. But instead, by speaking to this lender, we came up with a plan, because remember, my buyer has put a $15,000 down payment. She's given that to our company. And so I want to be able to have her get credit for that $15,000 down, because normally if it was a refinance, she would definitely get credit for whatever she's paid into that property. But in this case, they don't really recognize it, because they are now considering this a purchase. All right. So what we did was, I talked to the lender. I said, hey, I want her to be credited for the capital, for the cash that she's given us. And so what we ended up doing was, and the big issue with this is, since it's a purchase, she would have potentially had to come up with yet another down payment. And that's what I wanted to avoid. And so we were able to accomplish this simply by, I went out, I figured out what the daily rate of interest is. She wants to close this on October 17th, next month. I figured out what the daily rate of interest is for the month of October. I added all of that up. I figured out what her final payoff would be. And then I added, so that would become her purchase price, right? Her purchase price is $168 or something. That's what she owes on her loan.
Her new loan amount.
Her new loan amount. That's what she would owe us. Correct.
Would be, yeah.
Right. So in order to prevent her from having to come up with a load of cash at closing to close on that $168,000, we actually just bumped it up $5,000 to $174 and some change. It actually was $169. We bumped it up to $174 and some change, and we're going to give her a $5,000 concession towards closing costs and prepaids and all that good stuff. And so this was the recommendation of the lender. And so this is going to prevent her from having to come up with a bunch of cash when she ultimately purchases this house.
So theoretically, she will have zero out of pocket when she comes in there because of your concession on paper.
Yep.
Right. It's really just on paper. Your concession on paper is going to allow the lender not to have her bring anything in to close. It sounds like to me like it was just, you figured out the exact amount to where she doesn't have to bring any money to the table.
Correct. And there are limits to that. She paid us $15,000, but you don't want to offer $15,000 in concessions because
that's too much. Yeah, that's a gift.
Too much. Yeah. Good. So that's what we worked out, and ultimately, I think it's going to work out great. This, like I said, this buyer, she actually not only did her DTI go down, well, her DTI went down because she actually, this is how good of a buyer we had. She went out and with her, she's a consultant in the medical industry, and she went out and increased her rates, She increased the number of hours that she was working. And so now, I mean, she's actually really bought into this. She is really an integral part of getting this deal done. And I'm super proud of her. I'm so glad. So it kind of takes the sting away from not being able to cash flow this for the next 30 years. But ultimately, I'm very happy for her. We're doing okay on it, so.
That's a great point we shouldn't gloss over, though. That's why we do this. At least that's why I'm doing this. It's to help people.
Yeah.
So she's going to be an official homeowner now, right? And basically on the same terms that you created for her, right? Even though she's getting a new loan, her payment's actually going to go down because it's a better interest rate, right? Slightly better interest rate. But it's basically the terms you created for her that she is carrying forward, and it's now going to be her own homeowner. So yes, that does take. You are right. It does take the sting away from the cash.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. I'm super proud of her. I'm not mad about it at all. I don't know. I think there's definitely a place for gratitude when things go the way that you. I don't know. Maybe they didn't go my way so much because I wanted this to be a much longer term thing. But like I said, I am not mad about it at all. I think I think she's done fantastic. She deserves everything that she's got. Okay, so
all right, you're gonna actually show the numbers so that we're not just bullshit. We're actually you got the actual data to back it all up.
All right, so let's see here. Oh no, hold on. I've got to get back to.
I think I probably should stop cursing as much. I don't know.
Yeah, you're an animal.
Been super frustrating the last few weeks. So the variety of stuff.
Okay, we're gonna share now.
There we go. I can see it.
All right. So some of you may or may not remember the picture of this, depending on how long you've been with us. But this is a property up in North St. Louis County, 1060 Madison Lane. This is a 3-bed, 1 and 2 half bath. So it's not a 3-2. It's a 3-1 with 2 other half baths in it. Little up, but it's got a finished basement. So there's a bathroom in the basement. I actually haven't reviewed this, so if I have to skip a slide or something like that.
Yeah, it was a presentation from a previous thing. We're just
So let's just walk through this. If you guys don't have a copy of our calculator, you can go out there. Just go to sub2calculator.com. You can download a copy of that. It's going to redirect you to a landing page. You can just plug your info in there, and we'll send you our calculator. It's identical to the one that you're going to see here, although what you're looking at right now does not have all like the bells and whistles, but it's identical in functionality as this one is here. So
the most ripped off sub-2 calculator in the land.
I love in the land. Yeah. So what we're looking at here on that calculator, on the first page, the first tab rather, we have what we call our acquisition assumptions. And so, excuse me. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in anything that is colored here in orange. And if you have the old version of the calculator, this would be green. We just updated it so it was more congruent with our Sub2 Empire color scheme. So anything in orange must be completed. It must be filled out. It has to have a value in it. So like you see here, it says repairs were 0. You have to actually put 0 in there. You can't just leave it blank. It
no blanks. Yeah, so that's the thing. It messes the calculations up. Yeah, that's a good point. You have to put something in all the input fields.
Right. So here we are, our acquisition assumptions tab. Our after repair value 185, fair market value of 155. We've discussed this before. Fair market value is after repaired value minus repairs. That's it. What will it sell for today? So 155. On this one, we had a loan balance of 144,905. So right off the bat, you can see that this is not a deal for your average cash buyer. It's not a deal at all. And I'll kind of decipher that. If this ARV is 185, fair market value is 155, that means that this property needs $30,000 in repairs, right? If our loan balance is 144, well, and we have to put 30 into it, we just don't have enough room in there to make it a good deal for your average buyer, right?
Yeah.
So we had some expenses here. Now, this screenshot was before our repairs, but our repairs we actually got our money back on. So I'm going to leave this at 0 for now, and I can show you later on how this all panned out. I should have updated this slide, is what I should have done. But we did have an expense, a $4,000. So this was an agent that brought this deal to us, and we paid that agent $4,000. We paid that agent's broker $4,000. I'm not sure what she made out of that. But this was one of those deals where the agent saw this on Zillow, because we market on Zillow for sale by owner, and she thought she'd call on it because she had a buyer. And we said, yeah, we'll pay you a flat rate. We'll do all the work, and thank you for bringing us a buyer. So that's what we paid her. This loan was actually current. So we didn't have a loan reinstatement amount. We had you'll see that on this line right here, we have the original underlying loan amount of 135. That's because they went into default at one point, and then they got a deferment after they did a loan modification, and the amounts that they owed that they were behind on was put on the back of this loan. So our new loan balance becomes 144. That's the only reason that looks like that. We have to plug this number in here, this 135, simply because that is what the rest of our calculations are based upon.
Your principal and interest payment is off of that original number. So that's
correct.
Yeah.
So now on this 135, in that loan modification they lowered it to, how do I go back? There we go. Our loan modification lowered that interest rate down to 3%. So
nice.
If anyone out there thinks that buying subject to is in any way, shape, or form a bad idea, that interest rate alone should really pique your interest in buying property subject to, because that's what allows for your cash flow, that really low interest rate. Our original underlying origination date, the loan origination date was September 2006, 30-year term. Our monthly principal and interest on that original loan that we took subject to was $572 a month. Here's our yearly taxes, our yearly insurance, which, by the way, we were able to lower that.
Yeah, I was going to say that's excessively high. Yeah.
That was forced insurance, but that was the current rate, so that's what we went with. We like to be conservative, and there is not an HOA in this community. So these are the numbers, what it looked like when we bought the property. Current equity was $6,000. Our front end purchase expenses, which is up here, was $4,000. This is our reserve requirement. This is actually really, it's what the reserve requirement is, your monthly PITI times 3. However, I would recommend this be bumped up to 6-month reserves. That's what I would really like to see. So our total front end cash requirement was $7,098, and then you can see what our PITI was. This is our payment to the underlying loan at the time that at the time that I was able to gather this information. That actually did change because of our insurance going down. Excuse me. Okay, now we've bumped over to the next tab, which is the seller finance tab on the calculator. If you guys have that, if you've looked at it before, you know what we're talking about. And so what this is this is where we're setting up our sales price. We're setting up our cash flow. We're taking a look at, this is really where we're evaluating whether or not this is actually going to be a good deal for us or not. And so if you recall, our ARV was 185 on this property. What we did was what I like to do anyway, is I like to, when I provide when I advertise a property, I've often said that if there's one thing that I damage whenever I'm dealing with a property in a community, it's that I'm going to be super competitive. I'm going to try to come in just below just below the kind of the lowest comp that I can find. I just want to get it. I want speed. We weren't able to do that because of the numbers and the numbers of repairs, the amount of repairs we put into this thing. So we actually had to come in right where the ARV was. Actually, we are still just slightly below what the best comp we had in the area was. So we were taking a little bit of a chance, but it's a very popular area. We felt pretty good that, we just felt pretty good that it was going to be it was going to go quickly. Very popular spot. And then, so that makes our day one owner finance equity spread a little over 20K. So again, doesn't seem like a super great deal on the surface until we get to the figures that actually matter. One is the owner finance down payment percentage. How much of a down payment are you going to require from your buyer? And in this case, I wanted to get close to the number that we put into this property. We wanted to be made whole. And so we put $15,000 into it, a little bit over that actually. When it was all said and done, it just not reflected upon here on this particular worksheet. But so this is where our down payment comes from our buyer. This is where we're trying to figure this out. So we charge her 8%, an 8% down payment. We like to start that number at 10, by the way, and work from there. We always do our loans in 30-year terms, so 30-year amortization. And this is where it really gets fun, is we get to try and build what our cash flow is going to be based upon the interest rate that we are paying. That it's based upon the interest rate that we charge versus the interest rate that we are paying on the underlying loans. This is where your cash flow is built. And so after all of that's figured out, we kind of we just kind of play with those numbers and see where they fall. This is what we finally came up with. We have an owner finance principal and interest payment of $1,245.15. With the taxes and insurance that you saw on the previous page, and again, this insurance number changed, but this would be roughly when the buyer asked me, well, what is my payment going to be? That's ultimately what's most important to them. This is what I'm going to say, $1,705. It actually came in lower than that in this case, which was a much welcome surprise to the buyer. So then we just kind of go through these numbers, just kind of get transposed from the other tab onto this page. Ultimately, right here, this 672.41, by arbitraging this interest rate here at 8% against our 3% on the loan that we took subject to, we were able to build monthly cash flow on this thing for $672.41. So then we got our other, we've got some cash into this thing. So how many months before we break even? But our cash on cash return, take a look at that. Is that nuts or what? So this is the actual cash that we have out of pocket into this deal versus what we're getting in return is 201%. I mean, that's insane.
And could you just pause there for a second?
Yep.
So the reason for that big cash flow, that big cash on cash number there, is because in the down payment that you're getting from her, that you didn't really say this, but that's pretty much making you whole from your money out of pocket in
That's
it.
right.
And
That's
so
right.
the rest of that's 672 a month, and then that difference at the end, your 184,450 number from the, what was it, 144. So there's a $40,000 spread there
Yep.
between what you owe on the sub two loan and that's
Right.
where that big cash on cash number is coming from.
That's right. So, for example, if I went out and I went to a lender or a private lender, whatever, and I got a loan to buy this property with cash, I would have to have put in roughly 20 to 25% of my own cash into this deal. This cash on cash return number would be, I mean, it would look nothing like that. Let's just put it that way.
It would go down immensely. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then moving on, though, we have this is actually how we determine what an actual spread is. We use a cap rate. Cap rates are widely used in the commercial space and the big, large multifamilies, what have you. We actually do them as well on the on single families because it helps us to be able to calculate what our actual spread is based upon the difference between what the cap rate is. And you remember the calculations for your cap rate. Your cap rate is essentially your NOI minus. Now I'm getting the loan constant and the cap rate mixed up. But basically, it's your annualized income minus expenses. That's what your cap rate is going to be, and then you divide it by 12, and you get your cap rate. Your loan constant is the actual cost of the capital. And the lower this number is, the lower the loan constant is, the the better. But it doesn't really matter as long as this spread comes out to anything above 1%. So that's really not a technical way to describe it all. By the way, I learned a lot of this from George Antone, who's a master. The guy's just brilliant. So go out and check out George Antone. He's got some videos out there and what have you. Okay, so let's look at the final numbers here. I think I've got. There's an actual shot of the actual agreement for deed that I created for her. Well, I guess that was that was it.
Yeah, well, you probably haven't updated it because you're closing next month, so you probably.
Well, yeah. Also, that was also a presentation, but yeah, ultimately on that property, not only were we made whole, we also cash flowed over $600 a month, and then at the come October 17th ish, we will be looking at potentially around another between 25 and 30K payout. So we got paid 3 ways on this deal. You could consider, if you really want to consider it, that we didn't get paid on the first way with the getting paid up front. You could say that, but we did get made whole. We're not out any cash, so we're starting with 0.
Yeah.
So
the initial down payment you collected reimbursed you for the updates that you did, so it wasn't a profit center.
Correct. Yep, you got it. Yeah, so that was it's a nice ending to what I would consider. I guess you know what, I did ask this question when I presented this because I just feel like there's so many people that would look at a deal like that and go, "Dude, you're nuts! You're nuts for taking that deal.
Margins are too tight."
Yeah. And I would really like to ask anyone, after what you just watched, do you think that is a bad deal? Do you believe that was a bad deal?
So I'll just answer that. And I know that was rhetorical, but I'll just answer that too. So let me make sure I have my head around this. So we acquired the property subject to, you did put some money into it, updated.
By the way, wait a minute. By the way, we borrowed that money. We borrowed the money that we were putting into it.
that you needed to bring to closing.
Yep.
Like you borrowed that, and then you brought it in. So then you spent some money out of pocket for updating it, which then you got right back So now you have zero out of pocket. So I have this you have this property now with zero out of pocket and a buyer that is signed up for 672 a month cash flow to you. They don't know that, but 672 a month a cash flow to you. And what in the end, I don't know what the difference in all the pricing there was too, but like you said, $30,000-$40,000 on the back end. How in the hell is that a bad deal, brother?
Yeah, and I mean this is what I'm saying is this is why creative financing. If you're not into it, if you're afraid of it, or if you think it's a scam, whatever, I'm telling you, this can be done all day long. In fact, I would say, in fact, I just saw a graph this morning from Google. It was a Google search term. The search term for help was it help for my mortgage, help on my mortgage, has increased like 500 fold over the past year.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, these things, these guys, these people exist. They are out in the world, and you can do this. Anybody can do this. You really can.
And can I just plug too? We got the partner program there too.
Yep.
But this can be done in every state of the union. Now, there are particular states where I won't buy property in. I'm sure you can imagine what those states are. But it can be done in every state. In fact, we just did a partner deal in the state of Florida.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it can be done. It can be done.
For sure.
Don't be scared. Just find the right people that can help you navigate the situation.
That's right. Yeah, man. I don't know. There's many more like it. There's many more like that. Just thought I'd bring that one up just because it's happening, right now. Like I'm going through the refinance thing now. So if anybody has any questions about what I just went over, feel free to drop in the chat there. In fact, I think we you.
Or in the comments, or if you're watching it later, drop in the comments. We do respond back to them. You can see from previous comments made. And like I said, and two, with the interest rate just dropped, by the way, 25 basis points, and anticipating 2 more before the end of the year. So I right now, talking about all this, right? I right now am refinancing a couple of my properties and are going to cash them out. Right, we're going to get some cash out, and remember, when that's inside the business and you do a refinance on your, on that too, it's all tax free.
Yeah,
right. The cash out is tax free, so we're going to get some cash out and get things adjusted. Right. If we wait until January of next year, could the rate be a little lower? Perhaps it could be, and we're actually weighing that now about what's okay. Because I don't have to close tomorrow on it. Like we could close the end of the year or whatever the case may be too. So we're kind of weighing that. I'm not sure. I don't follow the Fed because but do they meet every month? So if there was going to be another interest deduction, I guess it would be next month.
Is it monthly or is it quarterly? I thought it was quarterly.
They thought it was quarterly, but then they said there's going to be 2 more rate hikes. Well, they have to meet to do the rate reduction, right? And so that would be quarterly. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. What else? We missing anything?
No, that's it. I think it's always good to do actual stuff because people always wonder. A lot of gurus are out there talking stuff but not doing any deals. So it's always good to make sure people understand, like, we are actually doing deals. We're not just saying that to say that. We actually do deals.
Yep. Good deal. All right, guys. That's all we got this week. Oh, wow. We're at 50 minutes. Holy cow.
Yes. It's all good.
I have to get the gab once you get me going, man.
Case studies are all good. So it's all good. So have a great weekend, and